Hey, welcome to The Feast Life, where we empower you, the modern homeschool mom, to create a life and homeschool you love. I'm Julie Ross, the creator of the award-winning curriculum A Gentle Feast, a homeschool veteran of over 20 years, and a certified Christian life coach. Charlotte Mason said, life should be all living, not a mere tedious passing of time. So on this show, we seek to savor the feast of life. So go get your favorite beverage and pull up a chair. You're welcome at this table. Hello friends, welcome back to The Feast Life. I'm so excited about today's conversation because we're going to be diving into one of my favorite topics, how stories shape us, connect us, and carry us through our lives. My guest today is Leilani Mueller, and she is no stranger to homeschooling. Leilani was homeschooled all the way through high school, and now she continues that legacy by homeschooling her own 5 children. From the very beginning, she has loved words, spending much of her free time with a book and a pen in hand. She went to earn her BA in Humanities with a minor in English and Bible from Biola University, and she's a graduate from Torrey's Honors Institute, Biola's great book program. One of her fondest memories from those years was spending a year at Oxford studying English and history. Truly a girl after my own heart, and we'll definitely be talking about that in today's episode. In her professional life, she has taught high school humanity courses to homeschoolers, directed musicals, and even ran a junior theater program while her husband was working on his PhD in Texas. But over the years, as her family grew, she felt called to focus her energy on teaching and nurturing her own children at home. And now she's stepping into a brand new adventure as an author. Her very first children's book, All Aboard the Grandparents Express, releases this week, and it's already capturing hearts with its beautiful themes of family, resilience, and imagination. I can't wait for you to hear her story and the inspiration behind her book. So go grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join me for this heartfelt conversation. Jump in. Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Feast Life. I am here today with, I should ask you, make sure I pronounced your name right before I jumped in.
It's all right.
Leilani Mueller. Is that right?
Yep, Leilani Mueller.
Leilani Mueller. Okay, sorry about that. I should always ask. I try to, and then we started talking about coffee and backgrounds and all this, and then I totally forgot to ask. So, welcome to The Feast Life. Today we're going to be talking about Leilani's new book about grandparents, and I'm so excited to have you on. So, before we dive in, can you just give a little bit of background to everybody about you and your family, and then we'll dive in to talk about this new adventure.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. So yeah, as you said, I'm Leilani Mueller, and yeah, let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I am the mom of 5 kids. My oldest is 10 and my baby is 2. I have 4 daughters and 1 son.
Stop it. Is your son the youngest?
No, he's actually number 2. So we probably had a little bit of a moment where we would have been like, I don't know, the ideal American family. And then we had the trio of little girls, which I still think is the ideal American family.
That's so funny because I have 5 kids too, and I have 4 girls and a boy.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah,
I didn't realize that. Oh my God.
That's why I was like, stop.
Where's your son in the lineup?
He's a baby and he is mothered all the time.
Oh my gosh, he must be like the young prince.
Yes.
Or something down those lines, because that's how my little baby girl is. But having the girl and boy as 1 and 2 is having 2 oldest because he has to be.
Yeah. Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah, that really is. I always love meeting and talking with people who have the same lineup as me because in our world, there's sometimes, oh, wow, you have so many girls. How is it for your son? I'm like, it's going to be okay. Look, here's this other family who's doing it really well or something down those lines. But anyway, I'm a California native, but I moved to Texas about 9 years ago so that my husband could get his PhD at Baylor. He's a philosopher, and he's now a professor here at a little college. This room is his office, St. Constantine College, which is a great books college. And that is basically what moved us first to Waco and then to Houston, or like the outskirts of Houston. And in the process of all of that, we went from 1 little girl to the 5 that we now have. And in the process of that all as well, I have been so abundantly blessed by the rich friendships that I have made both in Waco and here in the Richmond, Houston area. But I have been equally blessed by the love that crosses distance that both my family and my husband's family has shared with us. And writing has actually always been part of my life. So I actually grew up homeschooled. My mom did the whole K through 12. I was homeschooled. My sister was homeschooled.
That's
My
awesome.
sister, actually, I should say both my sisters and my brother were also
Okay.
homeschooled. But the top two, me, I'm the oldest, and my sister, have always loved writing. My sister is a better writer than I am, and she's in the professional writing world. Like she has 4 books under
Oh
contract.
my. Wow, that's
She's
amazing.
incredible. She's got one with Penguin Random House coming out next year. I'm immensely proud of her. But harkening back to our homeschool days, I could remember when she's 17, 18, has like reams of story ideas. So it's been really
Wow.
fun to watch her writing process. And I like read all the stuff that she writes and have been involved in storytelling with her. Um,
Mm,
but while doing that, prior to getting married and having kids, I actually taught a lot of literature, a lot of Shakespeare, a lot of great text, and I directed a lot of theater. And so all of this, both my like experience with my sister and all of this, and just my
mhm.
own writing has formed me to be a person who loves telling stories. And so it has been like a wonderful dream to have this little story come out into the world. I wasn't expecting it to be now. I had just had my 5th child, and this
Okay.
little press had this open call for submissions, and I thought
Mm,
I would love to write a book for my children that really speaks to our experience and what's beautiful about like what I see in them. I sent the pitch out, and then on my birthday they gave me a contract and I was like,
that's
wow, I guess I
amazing.
get to write a book now, which again was really fun because, as I said, my sister's a writer. She had her first book published in, I think, 2019, and she dedicated it to me. And if you know the Bronte sisters, she dedicated it to the Charlotte to my Emily. I'm sorry.
Oh, stop.
And yeah, so we've always played that we'd be like the contemporary Bronte sisters. We're
Okay,
not
that's
that,
so funny because when you were
but
telling about you and your sister growing up, I
yeah,
literally just wrote on my paper, oh, they're like the Bronte sisters.
yeah,
That's literally what I wrote.
yeah.
So that's so adorable.
Yeah, we love the Brontes and we love their work. I think again, another little homeschool moment for like my sister and I think I was first introduced to Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, which all listeners, if you haven't read that book, you should read it.
That's my favorite book of all time.
Is it really? Oh
Yes.
my gracious. See, I enjoy talking to you. So now we got to have another conversation
Yes,
about books. Uh,
absolutely.
I read it out loud to her. And that was like our
Oh,
first kind of like experience. Again, like teenage girls reading this book. And that's been like special to us. And then we both were homeschooled and then got great books educations in college and then went on to be mothers and writers and
oh, that's so
wives,
great.
etc. And you will notice in my book, the Brontosaurus's name is
Yes, I was
Bronte.
going to ask you
Spelled,
that.
yes, yes. Spelled like the Bronte sisters
Yes,
because I was like,
little
that is
thing.
my homage to the fact that I love the Brontes and I think they are really talented.
It's amazing. Yeah, I
And I
knew when
love
I
that
read
they,
your bio that we were going to be friends because one, we both have 5 kids, but
yes,
then you spent time in Oxford, which we can talk
yes,
about, and then you love musical theater, which we're a huge musical theater family over
yes.
here. So I'm like, okay, we're just going to have a great conversation.
Yeah. Where do you live again? We
South
should.
Carolina, I know, right? Texas
You
is
said
too far away,
North
but
Carolina?
South Carolina.
South Carolina. Yeah, it's a little far.
Yeah.
If I'm ever there or if you're ever here,
Absolutely. Yes, we should
can send
definitely
one of your
get
kids to
coffee.
the college and then I can meet you when you come for
There you
parent
go.
night.
There you go. There you go. I love that so much. Yeah. So since I brought up the topic, did tell me about the time in Oxford because I'm such like a huge
Yeah.
Oxford fan that I just can live vicariously through you. I've been twice, but never to study or anything like that. And that just sounds magical and amazing.
Yeah. Okay. It was. I will start there.
Okay.
Did you ever read Surprised by Oxford?
Yep. Hmm.
Yeah. I think that's a great little window into Oxford in that regards. Also, side note, one of the reasons we were excited about this job that my husband took here is that it's a great books college that basically
Mm,
teaches writing in the Oxford style, where like the students have their weekly meetings with their mentor. So my
mm.
husband gets 6 students that he meets with weekly to
Oh, that's
basically help
amazing.
them develop their writing. It really is. If they take advantage of it, they can be so well educated because my husband's really bright and that
Yeah.
he's just one of like several, which is one of the reasons we came here to this college. But that goes back again to Oxford. And as you probably know, it's called the City of Dreaming Spires. for a reason. And as you probably remembered from visiting it, you crest Headington Hill and you can see Oxford in the distance with its like spires ascending towards the heavens, if you will. And I love that aspect of Oxford architecture because the whole city, or a large part of the city, was built on this idea that we are going to turn our eyes upwards to the heavens and to learning about that which is true. And it's almost, I felt, again, as an idealistic, I was 21, as an idealistic 21-year-old here in Oxford, I felt that I was just placed in a spot that like that was intended to teach me. And I was in like a unique program, and there's actually multiple programs like this. I think that still exists today, where you could be a visiting student in Oxford. So you get your credits count back for your degree back in the States. And there was like a collection of Christian colleges that sent their students to Oxford. So I was living in a house with a bunch of American students, but we were connected to Wycliffe Hall.
Awesome.
And our teachers, our professors were actual like Oxford professors. And as you might know, like the Oxford model of education is it's a collection of colleges, and each teacher there is connected to a college, and then you study a subject. So for example, I took Shakespeare one semester.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was great. And so I had a tutor who I would meet with once a week. I'd write her a paper after I did a bunch of reading, usually 3 or 4 plays a week and some secondary research. No, we did a lot of work. And we had 2 tutorials. We did that one and then a secondary tutorial that met every other week. So one week you're writing 1 paper, every other week you're writing 2 papers. And then over that course of that like 8-week trimester, you're writing another paper.
Wow.
Yeah. This is why when students like ever complain about their work, I'm like, yeah, that's easy. You'll be fine.
I know, right? And I talk to my kids. I'm like, I had to go to actual library and read the whole entire book to find one quote to back up my point. You have it so easy.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, but speaking of libraries, so you have this, but you're in a place where, again, you probably saw it, but like they have the most beautiful libraries in the world. And like sometimes today I like think back and like I had a card that got me into all of these libraries.
Wow.
Why didn't I just sit there for hours reading and writing all the research?
Because you were 21 and you probably want to see the city too.
Yeah. I also traveled and that type of stuff. Or with punting, that was fun. Punting on the did you read Gaudy Night or any? Did you read Gaudy Night or anything by
Dorothy Sayers? Yeah.
Living our best Gaudy Night moments.
Yes, that's so cute. Yeah.
Yeah. But they had the most beautiful libraries. And then also another aspect that I really appreciated about Oxford is there was also libraries dedicated to each subject. So I am a humanities major, was a humanities major. I studied English and history and philosophy, mostly English and history. Married a philosopher, but mostly English and history. But the libraries were dedicated to one subject. So there's like the English faculty library. So you would go in and let's say you were writing a paper on Tennyson, which I did, and you walk on in and there's like a whole like shelves dedicated to his life and then all of the things that he wrote. And they do that for all of the major writers. Wow. And it's just so amazing to have this at your fingertips.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it did, I think, some combination of being young, being in a place that was dedicated to learning, being in a place that was beautiful, spreading your wings, if you will. It was a magical experience. And and it has been very formative to me. I think as someone who'd been a homeschool student prior to like my college experience and then studying abroad, that this was it felt like a window was open to something divinely beautiful. And I think maybe to quote Wordsworth, to go back to what he says in Tintern Abbey, can return to the memories of this and take joy in it. But realizing as well that which was beautiful and good in that particular time doesn't need to be in that particular time and place. Like those moments of beauty and friendship and community and learning could happen many places, including like here in Houston, like this little college here where we have the college students over and I can talk to them about the great books that they've been reading, which is again, hearkening back a little bit to the experience that I had. So yeah. You ask if it was magical. Yes. When my husband got into grad school, I was like, love, you need to get into at least one conference at Oxford. That's the only thing I want from you in your grad school experience. We did, and we went back together, which was also magical.
That's so sweet.
Yeah. But then he was at like a Merton college for that. And so we
Okay.
got to go into like the gardens that are like for the fellows. And
Oh,
so
that's
it was
awesome.
just, yeah, it was just lovely.
That is so
A big
lovely.
adventure.
I love to just, and if people are listening, they're like, okay, like I'm not going to Oxford, never been to Oxford. Definitely put that on the bucket list. But other than that, I think we can delineate like the importance of surrounding yourself, like you're saying, even in Houston, Texas, even
Hmm.
in where I live in South Carolina, the
Hmm.
importance of surrounding yourself with beautiful things, things that are inspiring, and surrounding yourself with beautiful stories. And so that can happen at your local public library too, even if it's
Hmm.
not any fraction as beautiful.
Yeah.
So I'm curious because most of my audience is homeschool parents. I'd love to ask just about like your homeschool experience, like and your
Hmm.
sisters. Was there anything you feel like your parents did that encouraged you all to love stories, to love writing? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I should add, I don't know if I threw in the brother. I'm three sisters, one brother.
Okay.
So I feel like
Okay.
I shouldn't leave him out.
So we don't want to ignore him. Okay.
Yeah.
You're not just the Brontes. They had a brother
Yeah,
too.
they had a brother
So
too. I'm
perfect.
not going to have my brother do what the Bronte sisters'
Yeah.
brother did. He's a
Okay.
little more upstanding. Yeah. Yeah. Here's a couple of things that my mom did really well that I really appreciate and am grateful for. I also want to add, like my mom, she didn't go and get a college education. She got married young and was committed to the idea of following God in whatever ways he might lead. And for our family, she just thought that she needed to homeschool us. And her goal was to make sure we could read and write and do a little bit of math. I think as far as, I don't know, worldly success goes,
Mhm.
like she knocked it out of the park, but that was never her intention. She wanted us
Mm.
to be people who loved God and who were kind. And I hope that, I think she succeeded.
That's a
Um,
very noble goal. Yes.
yeah, yeah. And two things that she did that I think every homeschool parent should do that have formed me. Three things. I'll make it three. One is she was very upfront about the fact that she wanted us to know and have a relationship with God, and that when she couldn't do it, she prayed. And she
Mhm.
was a woman of prayer, and she made that clear that was the most important thing in her life, or at least the thing that she wanted to be the most important thing of her life. And it's beautiful. And I think
Mhm.
it's what undergirded everything else. Secondarily, because again, she didn't get like the college education or something like that like my sister and like they provided for my
Mm.
sister and I or my siblings, but she would tell us explicitly that we could do whatever we wanted to do. Obviously, within reason. She was not going to be like, yeah, Leilani, go and be a basketball player or something like that. But this idea, like, hey, you want to be good at math? You can do it. If you want to do these things, apply yourself and attend to it. And like now that I've been a person who's read and thought about a lot more ideas and things like that, I think that going back to kind of Charlotte Mason's books, which I know you are, yeah, you and probably your listeners in general really value her opinion and advice and thoughts. But going back to what she says about education, in part needing to form the child to turn their will to do the thing, to do the good and the right
Yep.
thing. Like like we we can't force our children. Maybe right now we can, but ultimately the goal is to, yeah, you can coerce
Good
it a
luck
little
with
bit, maybe.
that.
But ultimately, the goal is that they will turn their own will
Yes.
to the things that are right. And I think my mom, without even realizing or like having some sort of
Mm.
philosophy behind what she was doing, did that for us.
Wow, that's
She like
amazing.
allowed us, again, just by talking to us and by encouraging us and by, I guess, in one sense, spreading the feast, let us know that we could do it if we wanted to, but it was us turning our wills in that direction. When I was, I think, 10 years old, she handed me a book on the American Civil War, and I loved it. I like read it in probably a sitting or two. And then I
Yeah.
proceeded to go to the library and get everything I could get out on like the American Civil War and just read voraciously. And so she fed that. And when I was like 14, she let me plan a trip through America
That
to
is
see like
amazing.
various Civil War battlefields. And so it was amazing. She let me like find the places and pick the places. And yeah, it was really rich.
That's
Yeah, it was really rich. So that's thing number two, like allowing us to just letting us know that we ultimately were the ones whose wills needed to be formed a particular way and that we had to choose.
Mm.
and that she wasn't in one sense going to make us. It had to be us choosing.
Yeah,
Um,
and self-education too, like Charlotte Mason
yeah,
says, right? Yeah.
yeah. And then when I was really little, probably 5 or 6, she read the Bible to us, and she read a lot of read alouds. But now reflecting back on what I want for my kids, I'm like, yes, mom, that was exactly right. I know so much of the Bible now because you read it to me when I was 6 and 7, when my mind was all spongy.
Yeah.
And so all of these like weird, obscure stories like Judges and Genesis, I know.
Yeah.
And she read to us a lot. And I think that that's a really important aspect of homeschooling for 2 reasons. Number one, you get the content from good books.
Mhm.
She's reading us good books. She read me Little Women.
Oh,
And
wow.
then you get the memories. I remember my
Yes.
mom reading Little Women to me. And then I got to read Little Women myself, or like the Little House books, or
Yeah.
again, like the Bible. And it was just really wonderful. She's a wonderful lady.
She
Yeah.
does sound like a wonderful lady. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing that. And I think that's so encouraging for people to hear because
Yeah.
as homeschool parents, we really can overcomplicate it a
Mhm.
lot. And we feel like we have
Yeah.
to do all these things and all these different subjects. And what are you using for Latin? And if you don't do that, but it's like at the bare bones, like this is what is going to shape your child as a person. It's feeding them God's truth and it's reading them rich stories and filling their minds with ideas and then talking about it. Like it's so
Yeah.
simple.
Mhm.
So you don't need to overcomplicate it. And it's those
Yeah.
beautiful stories that do feed a child's imagination and do lead them to have all of that wealth of beauty, truth, and goodness to pull from later in life, whether they're a writer or they're a heating and air tech. Like that's
Yeah.
never going to leave them because that is what actually shapes you as a person,
Yeah.
not just information.
Yeah.
So,
So, for example, my dad was a woodworker and was a part-time owner of a woodworking business. So my mom had my brother go start learning woodworking at 16.
that's all.
And so they live in LA, but last year, right before he got married, he got a job at LAUSD as one of their carpenters, like union
That's
carpenters,
awesome. Yeah.
which is great because yeah. And so again, it was like she was feeding our interest and like directing us places that, yeah, without us even realizing, I think really set us up well, both for lives that are again following God, but also just rich and honestly happy. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So
And so
that ties in really well with your book and what we're
yes.
talking about because
Mhm.
it sounds like you have an amazingly wonderful relationship with your parents. And so I'm sure that was very hard to take your family and move across the country. So is
Yeah.
that part of the inspiration for the book? Was there something else?
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And so when you read the book, it is the grandma in the book is largely inspired by my mom
Yep.
a lot. Even some of the ways that she jokes with the kids. I'm like, yeah, mom, when you read this, I hope you see yourself because that's the hope.
So
uh,
has she read it
her copy hasn't come yet. I
yet?
think I
Okay.
like was talking to her about it yesterday. I was like, has it arrived? Because here's the other thing. I was talking to her. I was like, I want you to read it because I want you to tell me honestly what you think because I know that you will.
Yeah.
So I hope she loves it, but we'll see. She'll let me know. And
That's so cute.
but yeah, it was inspired. It was inspired by a couple different things. So it's a mix of inspirations that have come to help shape the story. One was, so we moved from California to Waco, as I said, and then Waco to Houston. Waco, we lived in for 5 years. And it's so weird to me, but my 5 years in Waco was probably as beautiful and as rich as my like year in Oxford, which is
Wow.
bizarre because Waco, Texas and Oxford, England are aesthetically two extremely different
Well,
places.
you do have the silos.
Yeah. Yes.
It's kind of like spires.
Yeah, exactly. You know what you have right now in Waco, and what was really beautiful about Waco when I was there, and probably still, is you have people who loved the place.
Mm.
I don't know. Have you ever read Chesterton's Orthodoxy?
Yes. Uh-huh.
So you know how he like talks in like the flag of the world about loving a place and planting your flag in that place
Mm,
and changing it because you love it.
mm.
When people do that with a place, which I think is what's been happening in Waco since the advent of Magnolia,
Yeah.
it makes it a richer place to be. And honestly,
Mm.
as a place to raise young kids,
Yeah.
it was uniquely beautiful. And then the other really weird uniqueness about it is again, my husband was in the philosophy program. And you probably know that the world of academia has all sorts of things going on in it. But Baylor philosophy was
Mm,
weirdly unique because it was committed Christian philosophers who
that's
wanted
awesome.
to do the highest level of philosophy in like the nation, honestly providing this really beautiful community for the families. Like the philosophy wives or sometimes husbands, because there were women in the philosophy program too, would connect. And there were potlucks, and it was just this rich experience of people who had come together because they'd often moved, like I did, from rich communities prior. And we formed this new community, if you will,
Yeah.
around this idea that, again, God is the most important. And if we are going to work in his service when we've been given certain gifts, those gifts need to be refined in particular ways. And so that's why these families came far from families they loved to be able to do this so that their husband or their wife could be trained in these particular ways to then go out and serve in ways that only this particular type of education would allow. And so in some ways it felt very missional, but while doing so, again, it was just beautiful. And the friendships, like if you look at the back, if you look at the acknowledgments, there's a couple families that are in the acknowledgments. And the kid's name, I ultimately changed it to Jack. And that's the name of one of the little guys that is friends with my kids.
Yeah.
And they're just these precious young people, like my kids, these other kids who've grown up together.
Yeah.
And so this story is also for them. It's for my family, it's for them,
Mm.
it's for these families who have felt God's call for particular reasons to move into different places, which might mean leaving something beautiful and loved. But I think my goal with the story was to show ultimately that love can be multiplied and is
Mm.
multiplied, and that at the end of the story, I think in many different ways, both physically with Rose and just with the gatherings that happen. And that's what I wanted to do with the book. And I wanted it to be, honestly, I was like, if this book is just for my kids and like these families, that'll be good enough, because this
Yeah.
is in one sense my love letter, if you will, to the time that we all shared together there in Waco. And then again, I think starting again, because the other thing that happened with those Waco families, because we were all again at grad schools, is those husbands are all on their jobs at different
Yeah.
colleges now
Wow.
across the US, literally.
Yeah.
And so there was another spreading, if you will. And as we settle down in these new places that God has called us, I wanted to also remember that particular good. So there's three moves or
Mhm.
two moves that inspired this story that's about one move.
Yeah. No,
And
that
then,
makes a lot of sense. And I think,
yeah,
I have a lot of military families that use my curriculum, a lot of
yeah,
families who are full-time RVers use my curriculum. And
yeah,
so I think the kids will really be able to relate and be comforted from your story of, because it's hard. I moved across the country with my big crew from
yeah,
Colorado to South Carolina to Colorado,
yeah.
and it's really hard on kids. And I think your book will really be beneficial for that. So can you just give a little bit, without giving too much away, of
Yeah.
the basic plot?
Yeah, I'll give the elevator pitch, as they
Okay,
say in the
okay.
industry. So if you're listening and you're intrigued now, you should read my book. I hope you enjoy it. Here's the elevator pitch. So Poppy and Jack are two little kids who live in California, and they are moving from California to Texas so their dad could take a job at Lewis University. Does Lewis University really exist? Who knows? Maybe there is one. I called it Lewis University because I'm a fan of C.S.
Yeah.
Lewis. You probably caught that. And he's going to be a philosophy professor, just like
Yeah.
my children's father. And they bring their pet brontosaurus and pet unicorn with them. And when they arrive, they decide to build a train so that they can bring their grandparents, their beloved grandparents, to visit whenever they would like. And the story, it tells about the ups and downs that come from moving. And you will have to read the rest to learn, just like Poppy and Jack, what grit and love are needed to make a new place home.
Yeah, I love that. And I love like their imaginary kind of creatures in it. What part do you think imagination plays into your story, but also in childhood, like in
Yeah.
general?
So that's what I love about childhood. You'll probably remember it from your kids being little, and any of you listeners who watch your kids play. The imagination of children is so beautiful. And it's so real too, right?
Hmm.
As they're interacting things. So my daughter and my son, for a while, they used to play owner and puppy. So my daughter would be the puppy and he would be the owner, and they would have little various different games
Yes.
that went around with it. Then the other little girls all had like little names that kind of went with these characters that they had developed in the different story worlds that they build. And the stories will change. Like I remember when they were really young, they did actually used to build airplanes to fly to California. And
Oh,
so this was something that they like actually did because they
yeah.
enjoyed it so much. And they'd pack up all their luggage and then they'd get on the bed, and that bed was the airplane. And it was beautiful. It was so beautiful
Mm,
and they loved it. And in the writing of this story and in like the children's imaginations, my hope also was to capture like something real, something that I know, and like real children. Yes, in a whimsical situation, I like make their imaginary characters more real
mhm.
potentially in the story, but yet I think that's how real imaginary characters and imagination is to kids. And so that is all again baked into the story. And yeah, and inspired again by my own children and their friends,
Yeah.
and like the many storied lives of the Mueller children and the Kemp children and the Johnson children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned grit, and resilience is definitely a theme in the story, but also just
Mhm.
moving in general. Like, what are you hoping kids will learn or get from your story in terms of that? Or how have you helped your kids with that resilience in real life too?
Yeah. So I think a couple different things. One, probably prayer. And
Mhm.
then two, a certain like openness to friendship when you come to new places. Like love being open-handed and being willing to make friends, even though it might be hard, even though it might not click right away. Like that openness is so important. But also, as Christians, we're called to love. And I think loving is having a certain openness to the people who you are present with. We
Mm.
obviously live in a weird age insofar as like we can have this I can have this conversation with you, Julie. I can stay in contact with my friends who are across the countries in ways that
Oh
never
yeah,
was
it's amazing,
possible.
right? Yeah.
It is amazing and it's a beautiful gift. But with that gift, I think it's really important to also be present. We've now been in our new neighborhood, not new, it's 4 years. We've been in our neighborhood for 4 years. And I don't know. My kids have been going over to this. There's this gentleman. He lost his wife like, about a year ago, and he's
No.
older. And like he's like a surrogate grandpa to my kids, and my kids bring him a lot of joy. And
Oh, that's
so
sweet.
it's a really present thing for both of them. Like he brings them a lot of joy, gives them popsicles, and
So cute.
and so I think being open to the friendships that can be found, is particularly within good Christian communities, I think it is essential when people move, and being willing to let it take time. So my book takes place over a semester, and ultimately I think it takes longer than a semester, maybe, or maybe a semester for little kids. It probably depends on the age. I think the
Yeah,
older
right.
you are, the longer it takes, and probably again temperament of child as well. But I think that, and also having a really rich family culture, I think really helps with the move, because then you're not leaving everything. If you move with a family culture that is
True.
rich and is its own thing too, that thing is being brought to a new place and that
Mm.
thing persists in this new place. And that's good. And so I hope those would be some of the things that both adult readers and children would take away. I do hope that the book is something that adults would enjoy as well. That's my goal ultimately. I
Like
hope to write
C.S.
more
Lewis says,
stories.
you're writing.
Yeah,
If you
exactly.
don't enjoy it as an adult, it's not a
Yeah,
good book or
something's going
something.
on.
Yeah, whatever that
Yeah.
quote is.
But it does delight me that when my copies came in this week, my daughter, and I'd read it to her. I read every chapter as I was writing it to them, but my daughter picked it up and she read it in one sitting.
Oh.
And then my 10-year-old, and I was like, how was it? And she was, it's fantastic. And I was like, yes, that's what I wanted. Or I came here to do this podcast and I was talking to one of the professors here, and his daughter just read the book and she loved it too. And so
Oh.
that just made me so happy to know that, oh, here's my 10-year-old daughter or this like 12-year-old little girl who like read the story and really enjoyed it.
Mm.
Maybe they enjoyed it because they know me, but I think maybe there was more to it than that.
So
So
I'm taking then that you don't have a certain age group in mind. Your hope is that it's timeless. Okay. Okay.
That is my hope. I don't think I'm that good yet, but that is my hope.
Okay. So
Check
whatever
back in
age
10
you
years.
are, this is good. Is it, I know you said you really were thinking of your own children and your own family and this kind of beautiful community that you built, but who are you hoping, like, what is your intended audience?
Yeah. So I think a good intended audience would be like 5 to 12. 5 to 8 year olds, unless they're so language wise, if you're going to try to read it, you have to be a very capable reader, probably
Mhm.
to read it, like a fluent reader. So if you have a fluent 7 or 8 year old, they could read it on their own. But again, the reading range can take off at 6.5, 5 fluently, or sometimes 8.5, or maybe even older. But so that's as far as read on your own. And then I think it would make a good read aloud. I think it would make a good morning time story, honestly, that people could enjoy together.
Yeah, because even
But
if you're
yeah.
not moving, I think the themes of family and faith and like the grandparents
Yeah.
applies to everyone.
Yeah. I hope that ultimately it's a story that actually also just tells a good story. Like when we read stories like Sarah Plain and Tall, or I'm sorry, I'm picking out some of the best ones. I don't think or the tale of Despero or something like that. Like they're telling a good story about true things. And
Yeah.
if you're reading a good story about true things, it doesn't have to be your experience. In
Yep.
fact, it's a good thing if you're reading
Hmm.
stories that aren't your experience.
Yep.
If you've lived in the same place all your life, then probably my story would be a really good story to read because it tells about something beyond one's experience.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah, it provides
yeah.
a window into someone else's
Yeah.
existence.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think that when we're talking about living books, like that's what we want. We want books that bring us and our children into contact with real ideas.
Hmm.
I was talking to a friend today, and I thought this was really wise of her. This was, again, one of those Waco friends. And she was telling me that she thought we did living books because if we think the best thing is to experience, like the world of the four seasons, then maybe the second best thing would be to experience a book that explains those four seasons in a story so that you feel it maybe a little bit. And I think that's my hope with this book, that maybe for people who haven't moved, that they'd be able to experience a little bit through Poppy and Jack, and honestly, the pregnant mom.
Yeah,
um,
we
yeah,
can all relate to.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And yeah, so I was hoping that, yeah, that people would be able to see an experience that maybe they didn't have, and recognize it as true. But I'm also hoping that people who read the book and have experienced it will also recognize it as
Hmm.
true based on their own kind of experience of moving or experiencing new friendships and the fears and anxieties that come with that and the joys that come with new friendships.
Yeah,
Or
and
you
even
can,
as adults, right? We're making new friends, even if you haven't moved and you have different
yeah,
life stages and you're
yeah,
around, your
yeah,
kid's a part of this new thing, and now you got to go make friends at this new, it's
yeah,
always part
yeah,
of life.
yeah. I could only imagine.
It doesn't stop when you're little or when you're older. You're always
Yeah,
meeting new people and making new friends. And also too,
yeah,
like most likely and I think this is like what you're talking about, the importance of living books, because it does give our kids insight into something they may or may not experience. Obviously, my favorite book's Jane Eyre. Like I didn't grow up in the marshes of England in the 1800s. But there's universal principles and there's
yeah,
universal truth and beauty that
yeah,
apply to me in my particular
yep,
situation when I was reading as a teenager that
yeah,
made it my favorite book.
yeah,
And so I think for our kids too, like most likely they're going to meet somebody who has moved and
yeah,
maybe misses their grandparents or needs to make a new
yeah,
friend. And then,
yeah,
oh, I read this book. And so I have empathy for the new kid in my co-op
yeah,
because that must be really hard because I read this
yeah,
book. That's what changes us as humans and
yeah,
the power of story. So it's
yeah.
really congratulations. I can't
Thank
imagine
you.
doing that with my fifth child. That would have
I
been
know
a
it's kind of a
lot.
miracle it came out. I think it's because I love stories.
But
And
it's
so it was
also like
actually my rest time.
birthing another baby.
Yeah, exactly. My book baby, if you will.
Yes. I feel like
Yeah.
that with the Gentle Feast. It was like my curriculum baby. It was like,
Oh, I can
I mean,
imagine.
it's you put so much of your heart and soul into it,
Yeah,
and that
exactly.
definitely came through with your writing. So thank you for coming on to talk to us today. It was wonderful to meet you, and they can get your book anywhere, all the book
Yeah.
places.
Yep.
Yes.
Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all the book places. Yeah. I actually have I was excited. I have a copy.
Yes. Oh, I want to see it.
because I just got them sent. But I was so excited
Oh,
to
so
see it.
cute.
And then, oh yeah, we
So
didn't even
they
talk about
illustrated it, or did you do that
they
too?
illustrated it.
Okay.
They like gave me like 4 or 5 illustrators to pick
Oh,
between. And
okay.
so yeah, it was a super fun process. And I was like,
Yeah.
this illustrator, and then they let me have a lot of say as to what I wanted, like with the cover and like with the illustrations. So each chapter actually is going to have illustrations too.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute.
Yeah. And so
Bronte
they
the
gave me,
Brontosaurus.
yeah. Yeah, so they gave me a lot of say as to what I wanted for the pictures to be. And so that was just, yeah, so
So
fun.
cute.
To be able to see that all come together. Yeah.
Yay, that's
Thank
so
you.
awesome. Yes. Okay, so we'll put that all in the show notes. And do you have any closing words or inspiration or encouragement or anything that you'd like to share before we hop off?
Yeah. So I know a lot of homeschool moms listen to this, and maybe you're a first generation homeschooler, maybe you're a second generation homeschooler. But I just want to encourage you to be faithful to what God has called you to and to be people of prayer who put God first. And may you have wisdom to see your kids well. And may you be encouraged because the work you're doing is good work.
Yes,
I'm
absolutely.
grateful that I got the education that I received.
And I think that's so important for people to hear. So thank you so much for those encouraging words,
Yeah.
because sometimes it's when you're in the
Hard.
trenches and you're like, why am I doing this?
Yeah, it's hard to homeschool. Even I admit it. It's hard. That's
Yes.
part of it.
Yes. Doesn't mean
Yeah.
it's any less a
Wow.
great thing. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So thank you again. I've so enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for listening to today's episode. Let's wrap up with some key takeaways. Number one, the power of storytelling. Leilani shared how her love for writing, nurtured through her own homeschool experience and a lifelong connection with her sister, grew into a published book for children. Number two, family culture travels with you. Moving is hard, but bringing a strong family rhythm and culture creates continuity and stability, no matter where your family lands. Number three, simple homeschool practices matter most. Daily prayer, read aloud, filling your child's mind with God's truth and rich stories left a lifelong imprint on her and her siblings. Number four, imagination as reality from children. From unicorns to homemade airplanes, imaginative play helps children process big changes and builds resilience through creativity. Number five, faithful encouragement for moms. Leilani reminded us moving, or if you're away from your grandparents, this would be a great story to read to your children. Add it to your family's reading stack for a heartfelt story about love, resilience, and making new places feel like home. Thanks again for listening. Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this episode, please heart it down below and make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. Leave a comment and let me know what you learned in today's episode. I'd love to hear from you.